Linux distributions explained. Why are there so many versions of Linux? Hey there, welcome back. If you have ever tried to learn Linux, you have probably seen many names: Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, Arch, Kali Linux, Linux Mint, Red Hat, Rocky Linux, AlmaLinux, openSUSE, and Alpine Linux. At first, it feels confusing. Which one is the real Linux? Is Linux Ubuntu? Is Linux Debian? Is Fedora Linux? Why are there so many versions? Today, we are going to make this simple. By the end of this video, you will understand what a Linux distribution is, why Linux has so many versions, how the major Linux families are connected, and which distribution you should choose. Let's start with the foundation. In 1991, a Finnish computer science student named Linus Torvalds started building a free and open source operating system kernel. That project became the Linux kernel. The Linux kernel is the heart of every Linux system. It talks to the hardware, manages the CPU, memory, processes, files, devices, networking, and system calls. But the kernel alone is not a complete operating system. Think of the kernel like the engine of a car. The engine is essential, but an engine alone is not a car. You still need wheels, seats, doors, lights, a steering wheel, a dashboard, and many other parts. A computer system is the same. It needs more than a kernel. It needs command line tools, system libraries, a shell, a package manager, software repositories, an installer, security updates, and sometimes a desktop environment. That complete package is called a Linux distribution, or distro. A Linux distribution is a complete operating system built around the Linux kernel. It takes the kernel and combines it with tools, software, configuration, package management, and support so that real people can install it and use it. This is why Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, Arch, Kali, and Linux Mint are all Linux distributions. They all share the Linux kernel, but they package the system differently. So why are there so many Linux distributions? Because Linux is open source. People can study the code, modify it, rebuild it, and create systems for different needs. Some users want a stable server. Some want a friendly desktop. Some want enterprise support. Some want the newest software. Some want full control. Some want cybersecurity tools. Some want a tiny system for containers. Some want Linux to run on old hardware. That is why Linux has many distribution families. They share the same kernel, but they differ in package managers, release models, default software, desktop environments, system tools, security policies, and target users. Let's look at the major families. The first big family is the Debian family. Debian started in 1993 and is one of the oldest and most important Linux distributions. It is known for stability, reliability, community development, and a strong free software philosophy. Debian is widely used on servers because it is predictable. It does not always chase the newest software. Instead, it focuses on building a system that keeps running without unnecessary surprises. Many important distributions are based on Debian, and the most famous one is Ubuntu. Ubuntu was first released in 2004. It took the strong foundation of Debian and made it easier for normal users. Ubuntu has an easy installer, good hardware support, a friendly desktop, large community support, regular releases, long-term support versions, and excellent documentation. For many beginners, Ubuntu is the first Linux distribution they try. It is also widely used on servers and cloud platforms. Ubuntu became so popular that it created its own subfamily. Ubuntu Desktop is for everyday desktop use. Ubuntu Server is for servers and cloud systems. Kubuntu uses the KDE Plasma desktop. Xubuntu uses the lightweight X desktop. Lubuntu is even lighter and works well on older machines. Ubuntu Studio is designed for audio, video, and creative work. Then there is Linux Mint, one of the most beginner-friendly Linux systems. It is based on Ubuntu and feels comfortable for users coming from Windows. If you want a simple traditional desktop, Linux Mint is a very strong choice. Another Debian-based distribution is Kali Linux, but Kali is different. Kali is not designed as a normal home or office desktop. It is designed for penetration testing, ethical hacking, digital forensics, security research, and reverse engineering. Kali includes many security tools, so it is useful for cybersecurity students and professionals. But if you are a beginner learning normal Linux, do not start with Kali. Start with Ubuntu, Linux Mint, or Debian first. Use Kali later, and only in legal, authorized environments. The second major family is the Red Hat family. Red Hat Enterprise Linux, usually called RHEL, is one of the most important enterprise Linux systems. It is built for stability, security, long-term support, enterprise certification, commercial support, and mission-critical workloads. RHEL is common in banks, telecom companies, government systems, data centers, enterprise servers, corporate IT, and cloud infrastructure. If Debian feels like a stable community server, RHEL feels like the business suite of Linux. For many years, CentOS Linux was extremely popular because it was a free community rebuild of RHEL. It gave many administrators a RHEL-like system without the commercial subscription. But CentOS changed direction. The old CentOS Linux model was replaced by CentOS Stream. This is important. Old CentOS Linux was downstream of RHEL, while CentOS Stream is upstream of RHEL. A simple way to understand the modern flow is, Fedora comes first, CentOS Stream comes next, and RHEL comes after that. Fedora tests new technologies first. CentOS Stream sits between Fedora and RHEL. RHEL receives more stable enterprise-ready versions later. After CentOS changed, two important alternatives became popular, Rocky Linux and AlmaLinux. Both are community-driven enterprise Linux distributions designed to be compatible with RHEL. So if you want to learn enterprise Linux today, pay attention to RHEL, Fedora, CentOS Stream, Rocky Linux, and AlmaLinux. Fedora itself is the cutting-edge member of the Red Hat ecosystem. It usually has newer kernels, newer GNOME desktops, newer development tools, and newer system technologies. Developers and Linux enthusiasts often like Fedora because it is modern, clean, and close to future enterprise Linux technology. The third major family is the Arch Linux family. Arch Linux is very different from Ubuntu, Debian, and RHEL. Arch follows the philosophy, keep it simple. But in Arch, simple does not mean beginner-friendly. It means the system avoids unnecessary layers and gives control to the user. Arch is minimal, flexible, well-documented, and very up-to-date. With Arch, you build your system piece by piece. You choose the bootloader, desktop environment, network tools, packages, services, and configuration. This makes Arch a powerful learning tool, but it also means Arch requires patience. You need to read documentation and understand what you are doing. Arch uses a rolling release model. Traditional distributions usually have fixed releases. You install one version, and after a while, you upgrade to a new major version. A rolling release works differently. Instead of big version jumps, the system keeps updating continuously. Your kernel, desktop, libraries, drivers, and applications all move forward piece by piece. The advantage is that you get newer software quickly. The disadvantage is that you have a higher chance of breakage, and you need to maintain the system carefully. Arch is excellent for learning, customization, and deep control, but it is not the easiest choice for everyone. Arch also inspired easier systems, such as Manjaro and EndeavourOS. Manjaro gives users an easier installer and a polished desktop. EndeavourOS is closer to Arch but still makes installation easier. In simple terms, Arch means build it yourself. Manjaro means an easier Arch-based desktop. EndeavourOS means an Arch-like experience with an easier installation process. The next family is SUSE. SUSE is one of the oldest Linux companies and has a strong presence in European enterprise environments. The two main systems are openSUSE and SUSE Linux Enterprise. openSUSE is the community distribution. SUSE Linux Enterprise is the commercial enterprise version. SUSE is famous for UST, a powerful system administration tool. UST works like a control center for the system. It can manage software, network settings, users, services, firewall, disk partitions, and many system configurations. SUSE is a good choice for users who like strong administration tools and enterprise-grade design. Another important old family is Slackware. Slackware is one of the oldest surviving Linux distributions. It is traditional, stable, and close to the classic Unix style. It does not try to hide the system from the user, and it does not automate everything. Slackware expects you to understand what is happening. It may not be the easiest choice for beginners, but it is valuable for people who want to understand traditional Linux design. Now let's talk about lightweight Linux distributions. Some distributions are designed to be small and fast. They are useful for old laptops, low-memory systems, embedded devices, rescue systems, USB boot environments, and containers. Examples include Ubuntu, Puppy Linux, Tiny Core Linux, and Alpine Linux. Alpine Linux is especially important in Docker and container environments. It is small, security-focused, and lightweight. It uses muzzle-lib, BusyBox, and the APK package manager. Alpine is popular because container images based on it can be extremely small. That makes it useful for Docker, microservices, minimal servers, embedded systems, and cloud-native applications. But Alpine is not always the easiest desktop Linux distribution. Because it uses muzzle instead of glibc, some software may behave differently. Alpine is powerful, but it is usually better for containers, servers, embedded systems, and advanced users. Now, what about Android? Android uses a modified Linux kernel. So yes, Android is related to Linux at the kernel level. But Android is not a normal GNU/Linux desktop distribution like Ubuntu, Debian, or Fedora. Android has a different user space, application framework, security model, and system design. So the accurate statement is, Android uses the Linux kernel, but Android is not a normal desktop Linux distribution. This shows how powerful the Linux kernel is. It can run desktops, servers, phones, routers, smart TVs, cars, embedded devices, supercomputers, and cloud infrastructure. Now let's bring the Linux family tree together. At the base, we have the Linux kernel. From it, we have the Debian family, Debian, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Kali, Kubuntu, Xubuntu, and Lubuntu. We have the Red Hat family, Fedora, CentOS, RHEL, RHEL, and AlmaLinux. We have the Arch family, Arch Linux, Manjaro, and EndeavourOS. We have the SUSE family, openSUSE and SUSE Linux Enterprise. We have Slackware, the traditional old-school Linux system. And we have lightweight or special-purpose systems like Alpine, Puppy Linux, and Tiny Core Linux. Once you understand this family tree, Linux becomes much less confusing. So how do you choose a Linux distribution? Do not ask, which Linux is the best? Ask, what do I want to do with Linux? If you are a beginner, choose Ubuntu or Linux Mint. They are easy to install, well-documented, and supported by large communities. If you want to learn servers, choose Debian, Ubuntu Server, RHEL, AlmaLinux, or RHEL. These systems are useful for learning SSH, Jinx, Apache, databases, Docker, systemd, and real server administration. If you want to learn enterprise Linux and DevOps, focus on RHEL, RHEL, AlmaLinux, Fedora, and CentOS. This family teaches you RPM packages, DNF, SULinux, enterprise server environments, and cloud infrastructure. If you want to deeply understand Linux, try Arch. It forces you to understand how the system is built. If you want an Arch-based system with easier installation, try Manjaro or EndeavourOS. If you want to study cybersecurity, use Kali Linux in a legal lab environment. If you want to revive an old computer, try Lubuntu, Xubuntu, Puppy Linux, or Tiny Core Linux. If you are building Docker containers, learn Alpine Linux, Debian Slim, or Ubuntu Minimal. Let's summarize. The Linux world looks complicated because there are many names. But they all share one foundation, the Linux kernel. A Linux distribution is a complete operating system built around that kernel. Different distributions exist because different users need different things. Some want stability. Some want ease of use. Some want enterprise support. Some want the newest software. Some want full control. Some want security tools. Some want tiny systems for containers. Some want old computers to run again. So the real question is not, which Linux distribution is the best? The real question is, which Linux distribution is best for your purpose? If you are new, start with Ubuntu or Linux Mint. If you want servers, learn Debian, Ubuntu Server, Rocky Linux, AlmaLinux, or RHEL. If you want deep learning, try Arch. If you want cybersecurity, learn Kali in a legal lab. If you want containers, learn Alpine. Linux is not just one operating system. It is an ecosystem, a movement, and one of the most important foundations of modern computing. From desktops to servers, from Android phones to supercomputers, from routers to cloud containers, Linux is everywhere. And once you understand Linux distributions, you understand the map of the Linux world.